We have won the absolute lottery.
You've had mental health crisis.
I'll share some of the stories that, our dad had to go through, and it was not a pretty picture. The business at the time with a £500,000 tax bill, brotherly relationships falling apart, stabbing in the back.
It's a tough life. Building a business, then you're going to try and push up to about 1 million. But then when you get to 1 million, you've got to hold it at 1 million as a minimum. Creates a shitload of stress.
We've got this utter twat who's stealing money from the company every single day to feed their own lifestyle. Does money buy happiness?
For me, it's...
Joe, I've got to be honest, I'd say me and you have probably had the luckiest, most fortunate upbringing that you could ever ask for, certainly from not only a financial standpoint, but from having both of our parents that are still together, who love each other, a stable family in a good area in England. We have won the absolute lottery. But obviously for us thinking about, does money buy happiness? Are we in a good place to talk about it? Because I suppose we've never really seen the severe other side of it. But what do you think? Do you reckon money buys happiness or not?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't buy happiness in of itself. It buys, to me, the ability to be free, I suppose, and you don't have the shackles of, everyday problems that everyone else would have to deal with, like bills, and just in the rat race of trying to chase your tail, getting into debt. Because I think it might not be able to buy happiness, but without having any money, that can give you stress, anxiety, and all those things that come from that.
So money does buy happiness then. I would completely disagree. Money buys happiness. I don't care what anybody says. Anybody is lying to themselves if they don't at least in some way think that money leads to a more fulfilled and happier life.
Okay, I'll add one caveat then. It's not the only thing that gives you happiness.
No, 100% no. That's the thing in life.
But it can give you temporary sharp spikes of happiness, yeah.
Not even no. I just know it doesn't. Money is a vehicle, and the thing with it, whether you've got it or if you haven't, that vehicle is either a lovely ride or it's a bumpy one. And if you haven't got it, that ride is going to be bumpy as hell, and it is going to be shit. You're going to be stressed to the eyeballs on how to pay bills, and you're going to be stressed on relationships. It's one of the top 3 causes for divorce is financials or poor financials. It's one of the top 3 reasons for divorce. And again, we've seen with our family, my parents, our parents, still very much together, still very much in love. They've spent 35 years of their lives together. And, my dad has worked, I keep saying our dad, we are the brothers in business. Dad's worked his absolute balls off to be able to afford our family, some of the lifestyles that we've been able to live. And, looking back, and now we've sort of gone into business ourselves and looking at, I suppose, social media, to be honest, and you can see from just looking at some of the lifestyles that people are living is crazy. Private jets, hotels, villas, cars, watches. The things that they're doing is insane. So when I actually look back at our lives, I would probably say from before I thought we were kind of well off. Now I'm looking back and I'm kind of going, we were probably middle class, really. We never had to worry about money, but we would go on a couple of holidays a year, and, we had a good income. We went to a good school in a nice area, and, we had nice enough cars. We weren't driving around in sort of Rolls Royces. So, the more I look back at it and go, we were probably part of the 20-year ago Gen Z millennial middle class, whereas now, the middle class has probably suffered a hit because of the economic crash that's gone on.
Yeah, this is it. And it goes back to the whole, COVID, printing money, stimulus. Everyone, kind of went through that phase of, it's all good and well. It's like going out on a night out, isn't it? You sort of have a great time when you're drinking and you get drunk, but then in the morning you get the hangover. It's sort of the same thing with when they're printing all this money and COVID all happens. Everyone was in the garden having a great old time, but then later on down the line, shit hit the fan.
I don't know. I gave you a pretty bad haircut in COVID.
Oh my God. You might be able to put a photo up.
Yeah, we'll stick it on the screen. It wasn't my best. It wasn't my finest attempt at, giving you a trim. But
it's like Edward Scissorhands to like hack at my head.
Yeah, COVID was a wild time, wasn't it? I mean, I remember though in COVID, we were fortunate to still work. We found a way around it. For us, our business was one that could still operate. We switched into supplying PPE, and we took an opportunity to be able to carry on working, because one of my biggest fears, and I know I would have just got cabin fever, would be locked in the house, working from home on furlough, as most people were, even though they lied to the teeth and didn't actually go on furlough. But it was one of those things where for me, that would have just been torturous, staying in all the time, especially surrounded by you lot. It would have been hell.
Yeah, I hadn't moved out at that point. But the problem that you get is, and during that time, you've had mental health crisis that was flying through the roof. I unfortunately know a few stories of people that, it didn't end well. And it's all because of, not feeling like you've got a purpose, and not feeling like you've got something to aim for and drive towards. Because at the end of the day, as animals really, and creatures, that we've got to have a purpose and something that we're heading towards. Whether it's cavemen, you got to be the person that's lighting the campfire, hunting the beast, getting the berries. And it's like you've got to have that sort of thing about you where you can push for something.
Well, I'll drop a slightly different caveat to my initial answer then. It's not the direct sort of application of having money that makes you happy. It's actually the attainment of getting the money is what makes you happy, because money doesn't grow on trees. So if money was abundant and anyone could get it, then it wouldn't make you happy, because it's something that anyone can have. Whereas the reality is, for most people, unless you've won the lottery or you've inherited it, then the reality is for most people that they have had to put a graft in to go and get it, which has meant pursuing a purpose or pursuing a goal or pursuing a vision, and that has then translated into them being financially rewarded for that. And money, as I said, is a vehicle, so I feel like it kind of exaggerates any of your features or any of your personality traits. And, if you're an arsehole who gets given money, you become a bigger arsehole. And I think that's kind of prominent when you look at the likes of Andrew Tate, who's now in the world, and some of these rich twats who wave their cash into everyone's face. But I think it's one that, for me, again, the attainment or, that whole, it's not about the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness in the pursuit. And pursuing getting money or pursuing financial freedom, the journey that you go on and the lessons and the shit that you have to go through, genuinely, like I'll share some of the stories that, our dad had to go through to build the business that we're now in control of today. And it was not a pretty picture. It was shit. It was relationships falling apart, brotherly relationships falling apart, stabbing in the back, loss of houses, loss of earnings, loss of cars, panic attacks, the amount of stress that he's gone through, and that obviously we then now go through on a daily basis. It hardens you as a person to be able to then take on the challenges of life. And I'm not about just being happy all the time. I don't understand how anybody would want to be happy all the time. I like feeling like shit. Sounds weird to say, but I do. I like being miserable from time to time. I like being hit with the shit stick of life where something happens and I'm looking at things and going, this is really bad. Things have really gone sort of south quite quickly here. But then I think and take a step back and go, do you know what? Actually, I've been here before, or I've got the mindset to be able to overcome it. And rather than falling off my horse and staying down and being a bitch and crying and moaning about it, I'll actually think, right, how do I get back on? And that's what having the purpose and acquiring the money affords you, is that mindset. So I think the mindset is equally a part of making you happy as well as the money itself, because we'll get onto some of the great benefits of having a load of cash, because it is good.
Life is good. Yes, I mean, it's a tough life, you know, building a business, starting from zero and getting to a stage which, you know, going from zero to just 100,000 in turnover is extremely difficult. Then you're going to try and push up to about 1 million. But then when you get to 1 million, you got to hold it at 1 million as a minimum. And then you got other people that are working for that company, and it all compounds and it creates a shitload of stress.
Yeah, it's the ebbs and flows of business. And our dad, again, he's got loads of stories. It's not easy. And I get how sometimes people can get this warped perception of these rich business owners and these rich bloody billionaires, millionaires, whatever, driving their flash cars and driving in there or getting private jets and staying in the nicest hotels, and they're just, they're arseholes. They've exploited people. They're a disgrace. They're scum. They've only got what they've got off the back of other people's hard work. And here's some stories. In fact, you know, here's some stories for some of you that are watching that really show the level of stress, the level of panic, the level of worry that some business owners go through to be able to afford the small, tiny chance that one day they might be able to reach that lifestyle. Because the reality is 0.1% of people get there. 90% of businesses fail within the first year, and then another 90% of those businesses fail after another 2 years. So to actually build a business of any set level of success is impossible. And so some of the stories that our dad had to go through, you know, was the first one, Inland Revenue, HMRC, God love them, bastards. They had issued the business at the time with a £500,000 tax bill. Now, that came about through some bad investments on our dad's side. And he was working, obviously, as you know, with Doug, his twin brother at the time. And that bill, for anybody to have to pay £500,000, and this was back in the 90s, you know, talking a level of wealth and a level of sort of money that most people, especially in the 90s, I don't know what the inflation rate would have been for that, but let's just say conservatively, £500,000 in the 90s would probably be about 2 million today. So for people to try and say, right, you need to get your hands on 2 million quid to pay the lovely people at HMRC, you're going to be thinking, fuck that, being honest. And one of them did. Carl's twin brother, who he'd sort of worked with in the business for years and years and years, just as we do in ours, they hit an impasse. And again, Doug had said to our dad, I'm not paying it. I'm off. I'm out. See you later. That's for you to worry about. I'm traveling to a different country. He's not come back since. Now, you'll remember, obviously, the relationship from there. That means that HMRC aren't going to give, you know, any level of relief to our dad. And he was left with a £500,000 tax bill. So our dad, obviously, as you know, had to pay the whole thing. And the reality of having to pay that while still keeping the business afloat, while still looking after his family, while still trying to figure out how the hell he's going to earn enough money to pay it, stressful for anyone. And on one of the days he went into work, I remember him telling us that he was driving his car, middle of the motorway, started hyperventilating, started sweating, getting double blurred vision, and just started having a panic attack in the middle of the motorway, driving at like 70 miles an hour. Lost control of his car, span round. He's now facing the wrong direction into oncoming traffic on the middle of like a 3-lane motorway. And your whole life's flashing before your eyes because of the stress and the panic that you're going through. So isn't it fair for, you know, a light at the end of the tunnel for some of these people that have had to go through? And that's just one of the stories. And there's loads. He's lost his brother. He lost £500,000, although granted, probably, you know, it wasn't money that shouldn't have been paid back. But, you know, he lost his brother in that situation. He almost died. all for this pursuit of happiness or this pursuit of a better life for himself and his family. And yet these business owners are getting vilified because they're scumbags and they only exploit people to make their money. And the reality is, the first person that any entrepreneur or any business owner exploits is themselves, because it is a shit journey, and it's not for the faint-hearted. And we've been through it. And I've had to sacrifice so much in my life to be able to get to where we are now as a business. But, our dad has been able to sacrifice the worst part of it, i.e. that start, and save us from that headache and trauma. So, our biggest thing now is trying to honour that legacy that he's left and also do better and sort of give him the middle finger and say, look what we've done. But, for us, that pursuit of attaining more money, it does lead to happiness, but because of the things that you learn on the way and who it teaches you and what it teaches you about who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think some people as well, they confuse rich with wealthy. And I think wealth is more time, peace, and choices. And there's a lot more that you can get from the wealthier that you are. It is that it gives you that time and the peace and choices in your life that you want to take. And I think a lot of the thing though, really, for the most people, they want a better life for themselves. For our dad, like you were saying, he wanted a better life for all of us, and that's the main sticking point that really pushed him to when things got really tough, that he kept pushing in that direction and making sure that his family can be fed. But he will take that, the big boulder that he's strapped to his ankle to sort of try and pull it down the road as best he can. And, nothing but utmost respect for him. And I think we try and emulate that as much as we can in what we do and be thankful. And our big goal really is to set him free eventually. That sounds a bit morbid.
No, it's true. That's exactly my goal, is to give him the retirement that he deserves.
Exactly.
And to set him free from the shackles of having to be involved in the day-to-day runnings of a business every single day. Because I can guarantee you, again, this whole mindset, and it's the one thing that I would love to drill down on and just try and get into people's minds, is that business owners are these evil villains, and they're not. And they're generally the ones that are fighting the hardest, that care the most, that have got the most on the line. They started the business, they invested all of their money, they invested all of their time to build it up to what it is. So it makes it even worse when you've got some of these ungrateful employees that treat you like shit and sort of complain and give you grief and actively try and destroy the business. And that's someone's life's work that they've put all this effort into. And an example that we had of someone literally actively destroying our business was our old accountant of about 10 years ago plus, was actively embezzling over a period of 3 years £500,000 out of our company in cash. £500,000. And again, we're talking 10 years ago, so with inflation, that's a serious lump of cash. And she was doing it through fraudulently cashing checks, moving money around into offshore bank accounts, pretending to be different people. It was a whole fraud case. And again, just to paint the picture of what effect this has for people, our dad was, he'd spent 20 years building a business up to that point with his dad. It was his dad's legacy before his. We're a third generation family business. And the business is failing around him. It's crumbling. There's no money in the bank. He can't figure out where it's going. He's got customers that he's trying to get money from. He's got suppliers that are trying to take money from him that he can't pay. He's figuring out how to pay his bills. He's got staff that he's trying to figure out how to pay them and keep the ship afloat. And so all the while that his stress is building up, and as I said, trying to keep the ship afloat, we've got this utter twat who's stealing money from the company every single day to feed their own lifestyle. First class plane trips, new cars, new Jaguar, new Land Rovers, all this shit that they were buying and using it and stealing not only from the business, stealing from my dad and stealing from the staff members. And so again, this led to our dad having to build up a shit ton of debt on credit cards because he's an honourable person. And again, I don't want to caveat, I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush. Some business owners really are arseholes and they are exploiters of people's labour and hard work. But that's not the case in the vast majority of situations. And our dad's an honourable guy, and most business owners are. And he was paying, he sort of got up to about £40,000 in credit card debt that he'd said just to help pay his team. And I mean, you can tell the story of actually finally uncovering the
opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, uncovering the traitor amongst us.
So it's a crazy, crazy story. I can't even believe it even occurred. But I'd only been at the company probably three months, maybe, something along those lines. And I worked with this individual a few times, and she seemed nice enough, a bit grumpy, but yeah, like you say, she used to come in, new watches, first class tickets, X, Y, and Z. And then one of the days, she wasn't in for, I don't really know the full reason, but she wasn't in the one day. And I think there was a reason to look at the bank checkbooks, so the old checkbooks. And on a checkbook, you'd have the bank stub, which you'd write, I think the teller might write on that how much was withdrawn. And on the actual check, again, it's how much you want to cash out. And there was always the same amount that was cashed out each month. So when Carl looked at this to find out, where some of the money was or where the checkbook was that he needed, he saw that they'd wrote a different amount on. And instead of saying the correct amount, it was like £1,000 off. So he's going, that doesn't seem right. So he's logged onto the bank and seen this transaction that's meant to happen, every week at a certain amount. And he's seen, oh, that doesn't match. It matches what it shouldn't be. And then he's gone back again and it's the same again. And that doesn't match and it's the same, and back again and again and again. And each week he went back. You could just see in his face, he's just breaking down. And, I was almost the same. And he made a phone call to her and said, I think you need to come in. We've found something that we need to kind of speak to you urgently, right now. So she's come in, and he didn't want to reveal his hand too much straight away, but he was kind of like, oh, I can see that there's a payment that looks like it's been withdrawn, but I couldn't see the money in, where it's supposed to be. She's gone, oh, yeah, no, it's at home. And he's gone, oh, can you go and get it then? She's like, yeah, no worries. So then she's gone away, come back with the extra cash that she's obviously just withdrawn. And then, lo and behold, then Carl's, our dad's turned around and said, it's got a lot worse. It's gone back even further now. So where's that one? And that one? And that one? And she's just gone, I took it. And you go, horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I kick myself now because I don't know what I did, but I recorded the whole conversation, and it's somehow, I don't know where, it's on an old phone before iCloud existed. But it's just, it was shocking. And then from there, we managed to, slight good news to the story, that we did manage to recover some of the money from her, probably about 50,000-60,000, and a £200 a month payment. I think still happening, but it's just reflecting on it. It's mind-boggling, but this is, like I say, the stress that happens.
And the more that we delve into the subject of does money buy happiness, would she have been happy with all that extra income? Now, some of these people are just sick in the head. The reality is, they don't care about other people's feelings or other people's, the damage that they cause to other people's lives, and they'll steal, lie, beg, cheat, and make their way to acquire money through or dishonourable means. So I like to question, or I'd like to hope, only for my own benefit, that she was going on these holidays first class on our dime, and I hope she had a shit time. Genuinely,
she got sick on the
genuinely,
plane.
I hope, food poisoning, the weather was crap, and the whole thing was a nightmare. But, sod's law for these bastards. The reality is that they'll probably have had a great time. The weather was brilliant. They got upgraded to an additional pilot's cockpit instead of first class, and they had a great time. And karma, I'd love to believe in it. I really would. So hopefully, well, I won't finish it, but, we'll just, I think, let's hope karma's got its teeth into them.
I believe it does. If people genuinely feel bad about what they've done, I think it just attracts it.
But that's what I'm saying. If they don't feel bad and they've
then
acquired the money through dishonourable means, that reality is, has that still made them happy? And again, I go back to, does money buy you happiness? If you're a drug dealer and you've created a load of wealth in cash through destroying people's lives, do you feel happy in the money that you've acquired? So with the question, does money buy happiness? Does it? Or does it matter how you've acquired it? Does it matter more about the journey that you've been on to get it?
Yeah. I mean, drug dealers, put it in the comments. Just tell us if you're happy.
Okay. I thought you were on about asking if they're going to put a number in to sort your habits out.
No.
I was wondering then. I was like, what do you mean?
Just paracetamol for me.
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's going to be anybody commenting and sort of actively saying, I'm a dealer. Yeah, I'm really happy. Although, again, I'm
Mexican
sure
cartels might have a few followers.
But this is it. That's a good point. Again, a lot of these people, these crime syndicates, mafia, you look at all these old films, and it is a bit of a virus, isn't it? This life goal of going after money. Is there something that as humans we should be looking at trying to set our minds on more so than achieving fulfillment through monetary aspects? Or should we be looking at other ways to fulfill ourselves? What would you say is the best alternative if you're not going after money to make yourself feel fulfilled or happy? If money's not the option, what would you say you should be following?
Well, I suppose, the most important thing is feeling rewarded in the things that you're doing and feeling like you're accomplishing something. So I think this is why people that do sports end up, I suppose I don't really know the statistics, obviously, but people that do sports, especially combat sports, seem to be very mentally strong and resilient. Now, obviously, you've got to be that type of person to go through the heartache of, dedication and putting the hard work in. But I think if you've got a goal like that and then you meet it and you keep pushing forward, it's a great mental strength and it will make you happy, through doing that thing. Because if you can see you're good at something, it's rewarding. No one, if you're terrible at tennis, you're not going to probably want to go play tennis. But if you end up getting really good, you're constantly going to be thinking, oh, I want to go play tennis. Like I beat you the other day. No, I didn't. But I'm getting there. But it's when you've got something to aim at, like hobbies again is massive. We both go to the gym, and through having that hobby, it's meant that we've both got a much better mental strength, and you look happy. Well, you're happy in yourself when you look in the mirror. You kind of like, I'm looking all right today. Can have a pucker pie later.
I think the reality is just having a balanced life, and I think I was just listening to you talk then about how professional athletes are mentally strong. They have this mental fortitude, and yeah, they do, but at the same time they have a goal that they try and hit. And most people have a goal that they want to try and aspire to. But the reality is most people fail. Most people fall short. And most people don't achieve the dream. And if they do achieve the dream, then they realise that actually it's not what it was all cracked up to be. And again, Tyson Fury's a great example of this. McGregor's a great example of this. Mike Tyson's a great example of this. Of all these people, I think Tiger Woods is a great example of this. Everyone that had a massive goal and achieved it, even once they've got there, it just goes to show that even, the mighty have fallen, and how they fall is quite, certainly in the eyes of the public, it's quite extreme. But I think anybody like that, you have to live in the extreme to be able to become the best in the world, or to be able to achieve some of these really far out there targets of becoming a world champion or becoming the best in the world. Because if you can't live to the extreme, you can't go through the extreme levels of training and the extreme mindset and the extreme discipline that you need to get to become number one.
And I think when you meet that target, you can then lose purpose as well. So, it's kind of like, I'm here now, and now what? And then you kind of lose that purpose. And I think that's where some people can probably end up falling a bit off the cliff.
The money starts to diminish anyway. Dan Bilzerian, I watched him talk about a really good example of how this works with regards to money buying happiness. he said that, you know, if you're 18 years old and you were to buy a Ferrari or have a Ferrari bought for you even, you know, you would be like a 10 out of 10 happy. You would be elated. You've just had a Ferrari. At 18, you are buzzing. And then at 21, for example, you might get a BMW M5. Now, unbelievable car, incredible car for 21. It's not a Ferrari. So you're kind of an 8 out of 10 happy, 7 out of 10 happy. You're a bit like, it's all right. But I've got my Ferrari and it's a BM, so who cares? If that was flipped the other way around, you would be 10 out of 10 happy, and then at 21 you get the Ferrari, you'd be a 10 out of 10 happy again. But then for your 22nd, 23rd, you want a Lamborghini, and then you want a Bugatti, and then you want a boat, and then you want a jet. And there's this constant chasing of what's next. Now, my mindset on that is, so good. You should chase for what's next. It's the minute that you stop chasing new goals, new targets, and new accomplishments that you start to become stuck in the mud and quite sedentary in your life and your happiness, because the reality is you're at this stage where you've hit a target and then that's it. You just go, oh, I'm done now. I don't know what else to do. And then you get stuck. And I think for me, being able to chase that next goal is super important, but don't let it become who you are.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the minute you don't have a goal or something to aim at, like you were saying, and I think having the stepping stones to be able to keep going towards that goal. And this is what I mean. So having a hobby is you don't have to go to the extreme. You can just do something that you enjoy. You can see you're slowly improving, and that does improve your mental health. Like for me in the gym, I like going to the gym, but I don't want to be the next Eddie Hall. I don't think I could manage it anyway. But by, being in my own lane, for most people, you understand what your end goal is, and you keep driving towards that, and you don't let other things. I mean, I sort of say it, and there's I'm a bit opposed on it, because you want to look at other people and think, oh, that's what I want to strive to, I want to push towards that. But then, I don't know, what are your thoughts on it?
I've just been thinking in my own head now about how money, whether it buys happiness, I'm going to go and change my initial answer. I think money makes life easier, and having an easier life can lead to less stress. Having an easier life can lead to better relationships. Having an easier life can lead to you having more freedom. So, I mean, the benefits that we get from having a decent income, first class flights. I've just flown to Miami, first class, and I can tell you the difference between flying first class to flying economy is huge. On a 10-hour flight, you get to the airport, get to the airport 2 hours before and spend an hour going through security and an hour checking in and fannying around at the airport. 5 minutes, done. You've got priority preferential queues. You get straight into the front desk. You check your bags. You get an unlimited limit. So again, think of all of the stress leading up to holidays and airports with people going, have we got enough room in our luggage? Or I don't want to make sure we don't pack too much, or where are the liquids? And all of the stress going into what you're actually taking on holiday is just eliminated. You just turn up to the airport, give them your stuff, and off you go. Straight into the first class lounge where you're getting given unbelievable food, drink, whatever you want, rather than, and I'll be honest, I love a spoon's breakfast before a holiday at Birmingham Airport. But genuinely going into that lounge, different experience. You get onto the plane, you're greeted. You go through security in like 5 minutes as well. You get preferential security, which is much better. And you're literally so calm and chilled and relaxed. Now, again, if we compare that with, for example, flying economy and some of the stresses that you could have, you're with your wife or you're with your partner and you're going on holiday, and all of a sudden you're now queuing up in security and you're waiting and you're stressed. You're now queuing up at the front desk and you're waiting and you're stressed, and you're worried about what you're taking beforehand and you're stressed, and you argue and you complain. Imagine all of that's just eliminated. So again, it makes life easier. And then you're on the plane and you have a lovely sleep, and you have great food.
Have a shower sometimes.
So money has afforded all of that, albeit it was quite expensive. is a little tip for everyone. Most people don't know this. If you book a flight with certain airlines, usually if they're transatlantic or long haul, depending on the airline, Virgin definitely do it. I think Emirates do it. Oh, do Emirates do it? Either way, you can bid to upgrade your flights. So, for example, the first class ticket might be like £5,000. If you were to book your standard ticket and then you bid on an upgrade, you might put £500 in, £600 in. I just flew to Miami, first class, for £1,800 instead of the £5,000-6,000 that it would have been because of bidding on the flights. So again, great example. Sometimes work smarter, not harder. And people think everything is out of reach, but the reality is, as I said, money, it's like it's like a magnet. It attracts to those that are pulling it in. And most people haven't got the wherewithal to learn about little tips and tricks like that, which can save you £3,000 on a first class flight. And that money,
not bad.
Yeah, exactly. And that money has made that whole trip so much more enjoyable, so much better, so much more stress free. And by the time I've got there, I've had a much better time, much better holiday, and therefore technically has made me happy in that sense because of the ease of life that it's allowed me. So again, money is a vehicle and it makes life easier.
But this is it as well. You get that extreme and it obviously makes life way easier. But then you get these indigenous tribes that, you know, they've got no concept of money. They're just trading whatever they've got, you know, an apple for an orange or whatever it might be, God knows. And I don't know, I mean, it'd be interesting to know if they're happy. Do you know what I mean?
Their concept of wealth is very different to ours because they're not being exposed to it. But I'm sure they'd be a lot happier if they had better healthcare. I'm sure they'd be a lot happier if they did have access to some of the things that we now have access to. So the reality is it's only because they're so ignorant to the facts of what's around them, kind of like the Amish. But even they, I think, have a bit of time before they commit to that lifestyle where they go. I don't know whether it's actually true. It's called Rumspringa, and I don't know whether that's. They have, like, I've just seen it off a film, so if that's wrong, apologies. But they have a year or a period of time where they go into the real world and then come back. Whether that's true or not, somebody can quote me and let me know. But I think, again, money is a vehicle, and money affords you the luxuries and the freedoms in life that make your life easier. For example, for us, I have a cleaner at home. I don't have to do any cleaning. I can buy ready-made meals in from Simmer, which means I don't have to cook, which means I save time, which means I've got more time to do what I want to do and less stress. It means that I can have drivers take me from here, there and everywhere to save me having to drive and the stresses of driving. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get my next meal from. And all of those things lead to my life being a lot easier. And the other thing is as well, it means I don't have to spend as much time doing the shit I don't want to do, like cleaning. I can spend it with loved ones. I can spend it watching things I enjoy or doing things I enjoy, playing sports and all these things. So again, money, I think the answer overall into the whole thing, I would say, is money does buy happiness, not directly, but indirectly.
Yeah, and well, for me, I would say just that money buys freedom, which in turn can give you happiness.
Well, I've never seen a rich person say, I don't fancy having all of this cash. I'm going to give it all away and start from scratch. So reality is, I think we'll call it there, but money does buy happiness. And I think it does, but I think it's more the acquisition of it. Remember that there's a journey that you go on with it. It's not easy. There's lessons to be learned on the way. There's scars that you're going to pick up, and those are the scars and those are the lessons that you will take with you throughout your life, that hardens you, makes your life easier, and also makes your life more fulfilled. Thanks very much for watching and listening to our insights on whether we believe money buys happiness or not. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe below, and we'll see you in the next video.